free lunches for the whole office at some barbecue restaurant. So they'll do things like that. They also take requests through it. They do event announcements, all different kinds of things like that. But also I thought was interesting on here, see, here's somebody complaining that I love the Christmas music, but I'm getting really sick of it. Can you throw some 80s in there in between it? And see, a lot of people will go to their business page, and if somebody puts something negative, they want to delete it. Because they're like, oh my God, I can't have anybody saying anything negative. That's the worst thing you can do. If somebody puts something negative, you want to engage them, and you want to talk to them on a level like you would face-to-face. And in this case, I'm sure there are a lot of people that probably feel like her, especially since it's only the beginning of December. And anyway, nobody had commented at it on the time that I had looked at it. But see, then here's somebody else. Thank you for playing my favorite Christmas song. So anyway, it just gets a dialogue going back and forth.
And another thing, we talked about how social media can destroy the filter between traditional news media and the viewer or the consumer or whatever. This does the same thing by destroying the filter between the consumer and a company. With most companies, with most large companies, you would not, as a consumer, you wouldn't be able to communicate directly with them. You could write them letters, or you could call them, and you get a robot voice. And if you ever had a complaint with them, chances are they'd never hear it. Recently, there was there's a small game company called Riot Games, and they make a free-to-play game. They're not very big. But over the past couple of years, what has really gotten them off the ground has been their stellar customer support. And they haven't gone out and been like, look at our customer support. They haven't posted pictures or videos or anything of that. What they've done is they've just given quality customer support, and their consumers and customers have taken screenshots and recorded the conversations and posted them on sites like Facebook or Reddit or Twitter, and shown other people that this is a good company, they treat their customers well and stuff like that. So social media campaigns aren't always started by the company. It's just being aware that in the modern world, everything you do on the internet, and sometimes even off, can go onto the internet and people can find out about it just because of that. And also with social media, it allows you to build a rapport and a certain level of trust with your customers that you wouldn't have been able to have before, because you can talk directly to them without having to sit on the phone with them. You can answer them at your leisure, like on this. You could have somebody come on and just answer her comment. And before, if you missed her call or didn't have the time to answer her letter, it just had to sit there.
And this is on Twitter, not Facebook, but since he mentioned customer service, I don't want to forget to say it. You can actually use sites like Twitter for customer service. If you set up a search that's constantly out there searching for your company name or your product, it will let you know when it's been mentioned. And you can go, and if somebody has said something nice, you can thank them. If they have a complaint, you can go to them and say, oh, we care, what can we do to make it right? And these people are like, oh, they're just sitting at home tweeting, and all of a sudden the company has answered them, and they can't believe it. And it doesn't have to be big companies. It can be big or small, but a lot of big companies literally have staffs now that monitor social media so that they can go out and proactively reach out to customers, whether they're happy or unhappy. And Glenn, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say he had a good point about whether it's online or not. It can go online because I don't remember who said this quote, but if you think you're not doing social media, you're wrong, because everybody is in social media. They just don't know it because somebody's out there talking about you. So what you want to do is you want to be out there and engaged in the process. You don't want it to be that here's this whole thing going on and you're sitting over here on the sidelines and you're not engaged in it in any way and forming it in the way that you would like to help shape it. The screen, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That goes back to the point that Glenn had made. So the Riot Games, are they taking ownership of the stuff that people are putting online about them?
In a couple things they have, we haven't really talked about Reddit, and I don't think we're going to talk about it much tonight. But it's just sort of a social thing that people post things that are interesting.
Okay.
And what it was it was just random users who had conversations on their online customer service chat and just posted pictures of it, sometimes people, their executives or whatever would come on, because it is a small company, they would come on there and comment and say thank you or explain how this thing works or something. But most of the time it was just customers.
Okay.
And it's a good thing to keep aware of, especially as companies expand online. Because I don't know if everybody here has a website or anything like that, but eventually most companies will. As you expand online and as you expand customer service into a more digital medium, you need to be aware that people have options like that. They don't just have to complain to you if you did something wrong, and you can't necessarily just ignore it anymore. Because they can post it somewhere, and even if you're a small company that nobody has ever heard of outside of South Boston, if somebody posts something on Reddit that's either you looking really good or you looking really bad, then millions and millions of people are going to see that. And within an instant, your reputation can skyrocket, or it can just go right down in the gutter.
Yeah. And as y'all know, bad news a lot of times travels much faster than good news. And, you know, just in our everyday world, not even online, if somebody has something bad happen, they're going to tell 10 people. If they have something good, they're probably only going to tell one, if anybody. So that's one thing that you really need to be conscious of is looking out for the negative stuff and trying to reach out to people if they do have a negative experience.
And another thing is while it might seem a little daunting when I say that your reputation can go down so quickly, it might seem a little daunting to involve yourself in the social media because of that. The problem, if you don't, is that if somebody says something about you, if you're not involved, if you don't know how to use these things, then you don't have a chance to defend yourself or your company. If somebody starts railing against your company on Twitter, and people are like, really? Oh my gosh, and retweeting it and stuff like that, you don't have a chance to go on there and be like, hold on a second, this either isn't true, or that's not how it went down, or even apologize if that is how it went down.
Would a Google search pick up a Twitter or a tweet like this?
It will, but Google is really working on that. They recently changed their algorithm, the most that they've ever changed it at one time, because they found that people who are looking for news that's a minute, 2 minutes, half an hour old, they're searching Facebook and Twitter. They're not searching Google. People are searching Google for things that are a month old, a year old, 5 years old. And so Google is realizing that they're slowly being pushed out of the picture. So this is another reason that you want to use social media, because it's going to help you in your Google rankings. But a lot of times the fast-breaking stuff, no, you won't find on Google, because it's coming through Facebook and Twitter like that. And they have to agree to share their data with Google, and they are working, but they still don't have up-to-the-minute resulds.
That actually reminds me of an interesting story. Do you all remember the earthquake this past year in Mineral? When the earthquake happened, people immediately started tweeting and updating their Facebook statuses about it. Within like 5 or 10 minutes of the earthquake happening in Mineral, the tweets and Facebook updates had outran the earthquake as far as how it was traveling. And the first tweet in New York about the earthquake occurred a whole 5 minutes before the earthquake even reached New York. So that's just an example of how fast this medium works.
And you know, marketing-wise, that's really cool, but think about it safety-wise, too, communications-wise. You know, think about if it had been a devastating earthquake, like some of the other countries have seen, or like the one in San Francisco that we saw in the 90s. When I said this, Glenn pointed out, well, they couldn't have had a 5-minute notice in San Francisco because they were at the epicenter. But think about the people under the bridge. If they could have had 5 minutes, all of those people could have gotten out and not been crushed under the bridge. So, you know, it's not just about selling things. It's about communication.
Lisa, to your point about tweets and following that and hash marks and things, I was recently in Boone, and as those of you in here who know me, I check in everywhere I go, and checked in on Main Street in Boone, and within a few seconds I got notified by 3 different shop owners in Boone inviting me to come into their shop and visit while I was in Boone, which I thought was a really good use of technology, because there are probably shops I would have never gone into.